Sönke Ahrens's How to Take Smart Notes reads less like a dry manual and more like a quiet revolution for anyone who writes, researches, or needs to think clearly for a living. For American readers, graduate students racing toward tenure, knowledge workers juggling meetings and deliverables, entrepreneurs trying to turn ideas into products, Ahrens offers a deceptively simple technique that promises to change how you learn, remember, and produce work, the Zettelkasten or slipbox method. But the book is not merely a how-to, it is an argument about what thinking really is. Ahrens insists that writing is thinking, and that the right note-taking practice turns the slow, messy business of thought into a reliable, generative workflow. The story Ahrens tells begins with a problem most U.S. professionals know intimately: information overload. We read articles, attend talks, collect PDFs, and then wonder why ideas don't cohere. We treat notes as a temporary holding pen, bullet points on a phone, highlights in a PDF, a folder of half-finished drafts, and then complain that writing is hard. Ahrens reframes the problem. The issue is not the volume of information, but the absence of a system that turns reading into thinking and thinking into writing. The Zettelkasten is that system. It is a network of atomic notes, each note a single idea, written in your own words, linked to other notes, stored in a slipbox, physical or digital, that becomes an externalized, evolving mind. Ahrens introduces the method through the life of its most famous practitioner, the German sociologist Niklas Luhmann, who produced hundreds of books and articles from a slipbox of some 90,000 notes. Luhmann's productivity is the hook, but Ahrens is careful. The point is not to mimic a genius, but to adopt a workflow that makes thinking visible and cumulative. The Zettelkasten is not an archive, it is a conversation partner. Each note is written as if addressing future questions, and links between notes create serendipitous connections that spark new insights. For American readers who prize measurable outcomes, papers published, products shipped, proposals accepted, the method's promise of steady, compounding output is immediately attractive. Ahrens breaks the practice into clear, repeatable steps that feel practical for busy lives. He distinguishes three kinds of notes that form the backbone of the system. Fleeting notes are quick captures: a sentence, an observation, a to-do. They are ephemeral and meant to be processed quickly. Literature notes are concise summaries of what you read, written in your own words with bibliographic details, so you can later recall the source and the gist without rereading. Permanent notes, Zettel, are the heart of the slipbox. Each is a single idea, written clearly and self-contained, linked to other permanent notes. The discipline of writing permanent notes in your own voice forces comprehension. You cannot create a useful permanent note by copying a paragraph from a book. This insistence on translation, turning reading into your own phrasing, is what turns passive consumption into active thinking. Ahrens emphasizes linking as the generative act. A permanent note without links is a dead end. With links, it becomes part of a living network. He recommends adding explicit connections, see note X about Y, and writing short contextual sentences that explain why the link matters. Over time, the slipbox develops clusters of related ideas that can be recombined into outlines, drafts, or lectures. For American academics and professionals who must produce coherent arguments under deadline pressure, this networked approach reduces the friction of starting. Instead of facing a blank page, you begin with a set of interlinked notes that already contain the building blocks of an argument. Ahrens also reframes writing itself. He argues that writing is not the final polishing of a finished thought, but the primary mode of thinking. When you write a permanent note, you are testing an idea. When you assemble notes into a draft, you are iterating on arguments. This view flips the common workflow: read, think, write, into a loop. Read, take literature notes, create permanent notes, write, discover gaps, read again. The loop is continuous and forgiving. Small daily efforts compound into substantial output. For U.S. professionals who face the tyranny of the urgent, Ahrens' method offers a way to make progress in short, consistent bursts, rather than heroic all-nighters. Practicalities matter in Ahrens' account. He addresses the tools question without fetishizing technology. The slipbox can be paper index cards in a shoebox, or a digital tool like Obsidian, Rome Research, or plain text files. What matters is the workflow: atomicity of notes, clear titles, persistent links, and a habit of processing fleeting notes promptly. Ahrens warns against elaborate tagging systems that mimic the complexity of the problem. Instead, he recommends simple, meaningful connections that reflect how you think. For American teams and institutions that often chase the latest app, this pragmatic stance is liberating. The method is tool-agnostic and portable. Ahrens also tackles common psychological barriers. People fear losing control of their ideas, or they believe that notes are only useful as statically organized. He reframes the slipbox as a creative partner that reduces cognitive load. You no longer need to hold dozens of ideas in working memory because the box remembers for you. He addresses perfectionism by encouraging a good enough approach. Write the note that clarifies the idea for you now. You can refine it later. This permission to be imperfect is crucial for American readers who often equate productivity with polished output, and who therefore procrastinate on the messy work of thinking.